There's times where he was hilariously funny and charming and nice. And then there were days where you would just see him and he just looked angry. I heard him say, you know, I don't want a war. How do I fix this? How can I make this all better? I kind of wanted to know, so I walked over to him. Within the minute I started talking, he pulled out a gun and shot me once, twice, directly in the chest.
Welcome back. The defense rested their case today in the trial of Michael Barrassone out in New Jersey. Now, Barrassone is the Olympic equestrian charged with attempted murder after he shot Lauren Canarak and her fiancé, Robert Goodwin. Canarak was training with Barrassone in the sport of dressage and lived on the defendant's farm as she trained. Now, the defense is claiming Barrassone acted in self-defense and suffered from temporary insanity during the shooting. But here's the problem. When acting in self-defense, you are aware of your actions. And when you're insane, you're not. See the problem? Well, the defense is suggesting Canarak and Goodwin pushed Barrassone over the edge by mentally abusing him. The final witness the defense called was a psychologist, Dr. Charles Hassan. Now, yesterday, he testified about the defendant's mental disorders, ultimately telling this jury that Barrassone was delusional. Not only did Barrassone perceive threats to his life and the lives of his girlfriend's children, but also his mental disorders impaired his ability to understand what he was doing was wrong. Take a look, see if you agree.
He had a distorted view that if the children were taken, if he and Mary Haskins were arrested, his biggest fear, which is, this is completely delusional, his biggest fear, I think, is delusional. His biggest fear was that Lauren Canarak and Rob Goodwin would kill the children. And in this particular case, Mr. Barrassone scored extremely high on scale 6. He had a T-score of 90.
And what is scale 6 again? I forgot.
Paranoia, I'm sorry.
And what does that 90 score and that 105 score indicate to you as a psychologist with regards to Michael Barrassone's mental state?
Well, not just to me. Any psychologist who did work on the MMPI would look at that to say that there's a very high likelihood of a delusional disorder, a psychosis, a break with reality.
Did you form an opinion with regards to Michael Barrassone's state of mind at the time of the incident?
Yes, I did.
And is that opinion to a degree of psychological medical certainty?
Yes, it is.
What is your opinion with regards to Michael Barrassone's state of mind at the time of this incident?
At the time of the shooting, he did not know what he was doing was wrong.
All right, well, it doesn't end there. There's a lot more to this story, but right now, we'll get to that in a second. Let's bring back in the think tank to discuss. Still with me, criminal defense attorneys Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, and Kyla Coleman. Kyla, I'll start with you. This is a tough defense to sell a jury. I mean, obviously, you're trying, again, they almost feel diametrically opposed. This doctor went up, I thought he did a pretty good job of explaining the disorder and how it all kind of works together. Your thoughts on whether this jury is going to buy that explanation?
Man, I mean, he was pretty believable to me. It's up to the jury to weigh the credibility of any witness that's up on the stand. And apparently this is an expert. And he said that, you know, this man did not know what he was doing at that time. But the good thing about this case is that when you watch Mr. Barrassone throughout this entire trial, you kind of see his mental health declining. You see him looking, you know, very sad, downtrodden. Just each day he's coming in looking beat up. So when you're able to see the actual defendant and what he's going through, coupled with the evidence and the expert testimony on the stand, hey, they just might buy it.
Yeah, a lot of people questioning his appearance, Carmen. He looks the part. He certainly does. And, you know, when you pair that along with what we're hearing on the stand from that particular witness, some of it kind of comes together.
Michael, it can and it can't. I think it plays both ways, right? Some jurors would say he's playing a role. Some people would say that maybe this is real. But this is a tough sell for any jury. I mean, the truth is most people don't understand mental health issues, and they're very complicated when they meet the intersection of the legal system that doesn't really allocate for things like paranoia and schizophrenia. It's like, at the time, did he understand what he was doing was wrong? And simply being paranoid doesn't get us there. And so this is going to be a tough sell for this jury. And it always is when you bring mental health issues in there. And then you pair that, as you said, with a self-defense issue. It's like, did he know or didn't he know? So I think this is going to be difficult for the jury when you apply his mental health issues, which I think are real, with the law that we have in this country, which doesn't really provide a space for what he seems to be suffering under.
You know, I couldn't agree more. I'm usually on an earlier show, and I had a whole segment with a couple of doctors talking about that very thing, this idea that the law, there's this gap between insanity, right, and culpability that the law doesn't address. And this might be one of those guys, Renee Hill.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that this conflict that I'm having with the self-defense or the mental defect is going to be difficult for the jury as well. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. Did he understand what he was doing? How far was he pushed? And yes, he does look extremely haggard in the courtroom and down and depressed. And I think that the jurors will certainly notice that because they are always looking at the defendant throughout the trial. But it's going to be a tough one in this case. You know, the scores that the doctor spoke about, that anyone would find that he had a mental break. But is that going to be enough for this jury to say he did not know what he was doing at the time he pulled the trigger? That's going to be hard.
We saw this in the waffle murder case, that the one where the guy shot up the Waffle House. Same exact thing, that he was sort of delusional, had all these problems, didn't know what he was doing at that time, but there were other actions that suggested he didn't know exactly what he was doing. Jury didn't buy it there, not sure they're going to buy it here. And it got tougher because after the defense rested on rebuttal, the state called their own forensic psychologist, a Dr. Louis Schlesinger, I think was his name. And what I want to do now is listen to some of what he had to say, because he got fairly passionate during his testimony, especially when talking about how the defense expert might have gotten it wrong regarding the defendant's diagnosis.
Scale 6, for example, is labeled paranoia. If you have a high elevation on scale 6, that does not mean the person is paranoid. As a matter of fact, most, not all, but most flagrantly paranoid individuals don't score high on that at all. And if you look at Butcher's book, I showed the prosecutor, I don't know if any of that came out, but anyway, he has a section that says the literal do not literally interpret these scale names. And the first sentence is, if you do, you're poorly trained. That's not me, that's Butcher saying that. So if you think a high elevation on scale 6 means you're paranoid, it means one thing according to Butcher: you're poorly trained. You don't understand what's going on. And if you read the description from Butcher on an elevation on scale 6, it's nothing about delusions and all the rest of it. So when I hear, for example, in Dr. Hassan's report, and I do not want to be disrespectful at all. I'm trying my best not to be, and I don't want to be. But he said something to the effect, I don't know anybody that would look at this high scale 6 and interpret it anything different than paranoid psychosis. Really? I don't know anybody that would, including Butcher, who wrote the book on it. So it's just incorrect.
All right, Kyla Coleman, a telltale sign when someone says they don't want to be disrespectful, guess what? They're being disrespectful. Because
exactly.
Right? And that's exactly what it was. He was basically saying, you read this all wrong, buddy, you're all wrong. He also went on to say that he was using outdated tests. I mean, really undercutting the testimony of the defense's expert. They had to have anticipated this, no?
Yeah, I mean, because typically they're taking depositions or things of that nature up until this point when you have witnesses deemed experts. But, I always go back to the practicality of it and how much a witness or a jury should weigh the credibility of a witness. You have a guy that's up there speaking in regular terms, like how a jury might speak, very animated, very big movements, and very confident when he speaks. So a jury's going to look at that and, think maybe he knows what he's talking about more than the defense's expert. He was very, very believable to me. I think it's really going to be tough for this jury to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, if they were hoping that guy was going to win the day, I don't think he did. All right.